Welcome to the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm your host, Robin L. Owens, PhD, and this is where we dive in each week to give advice, tools, and tips for high-achieving, purpose-minded women who've written nonfiction books and want to amplify their message beyond the book. I'm a college professor, and when I'm not doing that, I am speaking, coaching, mentoring, and teaching high-achieving women who have written books how to use their books to make a bigger difference, have more impact, and purpose. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and you take time to listen into the podcast, and you've made the podcast in the top 10 podcasts of over 2.3 million podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you for listening and helping us rank in the top 10%. So if you're really enjoying the podcast, go ahead and rate and subscribe. That would really be helpful. All right, so let's get started. And today I'm talking with Catherine Wiberg. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Catherine. She is Dr. Catherine Wiberg, and she's the founder and CEO of Profitable Alignment. She's a transformational speaker and workshop facilitator, and she authored a chapter in the New Female Leader book, and is the author of an upcoming book on appreciative intelligence. I can't wait to hear more about that, but it's about how increasing your recognition, gratitude, and strengths use and increase the value you create. We'll have to put that on the list of first to be notified when that comes out. Dr. Catherine's company, Profitable Alignment, uses her framework called Reframe, Rewrite, Redesign. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that. And she works with business leaders to stop their employee exodus. And I'm sure we'll hear much more about that. Welcome, Dr. Catherine Wiberg.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robin. I am excited to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so let's jump right in. All right, so I said a little bit about your bio, a kind of official read your bio, but in your own words, why don't you tell us about the work you do?
I discovered years ago that I love work, but the problem is that the majority of Americans, it seems, don't love work. Over the last couple of years, more than 4 million American workers every month have been leaving their jobs for greener pastures. And I want to help the organizations realize they can stop that exodus. It costs every organization to replace an entry-level or mid-level employee 50% of that person's salary and benefits just to replace the person. If it's a C-suite person, then that's 250% of that person's salary and benefits. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are being lost. Some of the solutions that I offer are helping leaders become leaders they would follow. Also recognizing that group dynamics illustrate and influence your company culture. And I teach appreciative intelligence, which is actually appreciating things in two different ways. One, it is to appreciate in the level of recognition and gratitude and use, but also on an accounting side, it appreciates the value of what you're doing. As you appreciate, things appreciate.
I love that. So tell us, how did you come to this work? It sounds, I can hear you're passionate about it. So tell us, how did you come to this work?
It really came about because, again, as an employee, I realized that I love work. I would only apply for positions that I thought I could enjoy and where I thought I could contribute. Now, I know that in life, everybody has to do work that we don't love en route to getting to the work that we love. So I always was looking for, how can I love what I'm doing now and move towards something I enjoy more? I discovered I was working with my coworkers to develop that same attitude. Then when I was in my doctorate program, I learned the phrase appreciative intelligence. I said, wait a minute, I've been focusing on strengths and collaboration and team building already. I've been looking at all of the things that I do well and how can I use them to help somebody else. And instead of looking at the things I do badly and comparing them to someone who does them well, saying that person does this well and can help me because I either don't like it or I don't do it well. And all of that is appreciative intelligence. But nobody knows this phrase. Everybody needs to know this. I got so excited about sharing with other organizations that this is something that every leader, whether you have a title or don't have a title, can implement to strengthen the organization and get people excited about going to work and being at work, that I decided I had to share it.
Yes. Well, good for you. And it looks like you are planning to share it even more broadly in your
Yes.
upcoming book.
Yes.
That shares that title. Tell us more, if you can, what we might expect. I know you're probably still in the process, but the kinds of things that you are anticipating to be in the book.
You're correct. I am still in the process of getting it written, but I'm going to introduce exactly what does appreciative intelligence look like. I created my own framework around appreciative intelligence, which is, I called it the Reframe, Rewrite, Redesign framework for organizational success. To reframe is to look at something in a new way. I like to illustrate this with, consider having a picture in a black picture frame. Different shades, different hues, different colors, different aspects of that picture will be emphasized because of the black picture frame. Now take that exact same picture and put it in a white picture frame. Again, different colors, different hues, different pieces are going to stand out because of the picture frame. The picture is exactly the same, but when you look at it differently, you see different things you can learn, different things you like, different perspectives, and you can reframe every experience, every conversation, every experience you didn't like, even every experience you did like, to gain something new from it and to recognize your strengths and the strengths of other people. With that new understanding, you can then rewrite. You can rewrite your current understanding, a change in your status quo, your thoughts of yourself or your team or your supervisors or your customers. Then you can redesign the future that you want. You can then look at what strengths do I need to bring into my team? What strengths do people have that we are underutilizing? And how can we use those better so that, one, they enjoy what they're doing, and two, because they enjoy what they're doing, they're going to do more of it. They're going to do it better. And the entire organization is then able to take those strengths and make them organizational strengths. Again, that allows the recognition of what brought people to the job in the first place. They applied to work there on purpose. They might have forgotten why. But if you can tap into it, you can redesign everything and the value increases. This can be done from a solopreneur to a multi-billion, multi-thousand employee organization. The process only changes in scale.
And you answered the question before I asked. That's what I was going to say. For someone like me and other consultants who are working with small teams and or no team, how they could use it for themselves or with their teams. And so you quickly made that transition and let us know how you do that. That was going to be my next question. Is there any more you want to say? Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you about before I ask that next question. I don't want to let this go. get away from me. I was really thinking about that rewrite, the
Yes.
rewrite aspect of it. Is
Yes.
I'm guessing you have a process. Is there a hint you can give us about the rewrite process in the whole
Right.
methodology? That particular piece of it, the rewrite, got my attention.
When it comes to rewrite, it depends a little bit on what portion needs to be rewritten for
Oh,
an organization or an individual.
oh,
One of the things I do with organizations is look at group dynamics. And again, just like appreciation, group dynamics has two sides to it. You have the group dynamics of how people interact with each other on different teams and different departments, just in general. You also have the group dynamics of how groups form and how they work together, in which you have the forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning stages. If those are unfamiliar to people who are listening, I have a whole lot of other information on that. But basically, that is, how do things fit together? How do individuals within the groups find their places and their roles, and how are they going to communicate? So forming is putting everybody together in the first place. What strengths do you need? What skills do you need? What background do you need? And then putting them together into the team. Storming is where they have the chance to learn how they're going to become cohesive. It's the opportunity of, okay, now what is my role and how are we going to communicate? How are we going to handle disagreements? How are we going to handle differences of opinion? All of that is the storming phase, and that can be shortened. And that's another thing I like to talk about separately. Norming is when people start to settle in. It's not where people become complacent. It's where they understand what they're doing. Things are becoming normal, normalized. And then performing is when not only is it normal, but it becomes stellar. This is when we are meeting the goals, we are meeting the objectives, we are reaching the vision, we are really doing what we wanted to accomplish. It's where everything comes to fruition. Adjourning is when the group needs to change. Maybe the goals have been met. Maybe somebody got promoted. Maybe you need to change tasks. Every group goes through that. This also mirrors change management. I love talking about all of these different things. You can see how there are going to be different portions in my book about how you can use appreciative intelligence in change management, in group dynamics, even in personal reframing, rewriting, and redesigning your own perspective. Because if you want to influence anybody, including yourself, you need to be able to look at what you've gone through and what you want to do as a result.
Yes. Yes. Makes sense. That makes complete sense to me. And is this similar to what you talk about in the new female leader, or do you talk about?
It is. In the new female leader, I gave a little bit of my leadership journey. I talk about how I started life as an extremely autocratic, dictatorial leader.
Really?
It was, in retrospect, horrible. At the same time, because I started there, I am proof that leaders are made. You don't have to be born a good leader, because I was not.
Yeah.
But I have learned so much, and I have studied and practiced leadership for more than 20 years because I found that what I was doing wasn't working.
Yes.
And it made me feel yucky and crummy as well.
Yeah.
Not only did it work badly, but
Right.
I didn't like how it made me feel.
Right.
So I have emphasized on learning all of these things that I now teach. There are times that I'm not perfect at it. I'm so incredibly human. But because I'm willing to try again And I've discovered that so many people are willing to allow me to try again and talk to me about how I can be better, that I keep getting better. And then I can help others around me get better. And it becomes an open flow of communication and improvement. One other thing I talk about in the new female leader is how, once you have helped yourself reframe, rewrite, and redesign your own journey to where you are, you can then apply that to your leadership. You can look at, for example, meetings and how people interact in meetings. Really observe, listen, pay attention to who speaks up, who sits back. Pay attention to how are things discussed and how are decisions made? How do people respond after the meetings? Notice if you walk into a meeting, does the dynamic inside, the interpersonal dynamic, seem to change? From there, you can then start to bring people out who are not speaking up. You can either go to them privately and say, I think you had something to contribute and you didn't get to say it, and I want to hear about it. As an example. Lots of fun things you can do.
Yes, that's a good example. Now, I know we're talking about this from your book, and we're talking about your expertise, consultant, author. Do you consider yourself a new female leader?
I do consider myself a new female leader, and I consider myself that because I had to step into it, and I become better frequently. I look at the leader I was 5 years ago and 10 years ago, and I'm a new female leader now from who I was then.
Yes, I see that. And for everybody if someone missed that, I'm asking that because the title of the book, The New Female Leader, and that has aspects of it. So that's why I asked that. And I did a couple episodes back about how we use our professional identity when we're consultants and authors. We have a number of professional identities, what primarily sticks out as our professional identity. So that brought that question to mind.
That's
all right.
Awesome.
So now this podcast, as you know, the title was Leadership Purpose. And the podcast is geared toward purpose-minded, high-achieving women who, as I've mentioned, who are consultants who have written a book. All right. So I'm thinking about this idea of purpose. Do you think it's important for people to have purpose in their work? And if so, why? If not, why not?
I think it's absolutely vital for people to have purpose in their work. First of all, they need an intrinsic purpose in their work because you spend so much time working. You need to feel a sense of accomplishment, whether it's monetary or non-monetary. You need to feel like you are accomplishing something. You have contributed. The majority of the world, in my worldview anyway, wants to have some type of legacy, some type of contribution, some type of, I can be recognized because I did this or I helped somebody with this, something more than just a name. I also think that sometimes in organizations, people lose their purpose because organizations can become faceless entities. Those that don't, I think, are fantastic, but they can be. However, even a faceless entity can come back to having a face. I think that when employees become disengaged, when they are no longer excited to be at work, it's because their purpose is not aligning in a way that they can see with the organization's purpose. Yeah. And if you can get those two things back in alignment, then profits happen.
That makes sense to me. And I'm thinking about it even as consultants and authors who have teams and who have people who may have been with them for a while or may be coming new and lose that, what you call alignment because of the purpose. So I could see how that could happen there too. So it's good to be able to reconnect and realign with that. All right. You know, Dr. Catherine, I can talk to you forever, but I know you don't have.
I could talk forever. I have that ability.
And I can too. All right. So, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you'd like to talk about? And keeping in mind the consultant, author, listener.
I just want to emphasize that as a consultant and as an author, you will have times, no matter how long you've been doing it, that you feel like an imposter. But an imposter moment does not have to become an imposter syndrome. It doesn't have to stop you. I actually snatched that phrase imposter moment from somebody who I interviewed on my podcast, who works with especially women who are feeling that. But it's really important to realize that even in an imposter moment, you can reframe. You can look at it and see all the things that you've done that led you to this point. You can then rewrite your self-perception and recognize you are an expert to somebody. You might not be an expert to your hero or your idol, but you are a hero or an idol to somebody else because you are where you are and you have worked hard to get where you are. Your message matters. You can always redesign an imposter moment into an influencer moment where you can become the person that you have been, that you are, and that you want to be.
Okay. Well, I mean, what can we say after that? Now, there might be people listening saying, well, I want to hear more. How can I get in touch with Dr. Catherine? How would you tell them to reach you and be in contact with you?
The easiest way is bookwithdrcatherine.com. And doctor is just DR and no period.
Okay.
I'm also on LinkedIn. It's easy to find me that way. And my website is profitablealignment.com.
Okay. And we'll be sure to put that in the show notes so everybody can have them there. Dr. Catherine, thank you so much for your generosity and taking time out of your busy schedule to be here and talk with us today. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robin. This has been wonderful.
Okay, everyone. And if you want to think about expanding your message beyond your book in the coming year, at the time of this recording, we're recording at the end of one year, rolling over to the next. So if you're thinking about doing something new and you want to amplify your message more, and you're thinking about turning your book into a course, head on over to my website where you can get my free training on how to turn your book into a masterful course. And if you want to have more reach, impact more people, increase your income, leverage your time, turn your book into a masterful course. And I'll show you how to do that at createmasterfulcourses.com, createmasterfulcourses.com. And in the meantime, this is Dr. Robin. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. If you enjoyed it, head on over and rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode. New episodes drop every week, and I can't wait to hang out with you again soon. Meanwhile, this is Dr. Robin signing off. See you next time.